Welcome, world. Hello, world. How's everybody today? Today we have, I've been looking forward to this because, as many of you know, I was a career drummer for 35 plus years. I never actually did figure out the real number, but I have a passion for music and drumming and drummers, and I'm always liking to learn stuff like all the time. And my favorite go to resource has always been Modern Drummer Magazine to learn about drums, drummers, concepts, thoughts, and just to keep updated. So today I have a special guest. He is the CEO and the publisher of Modern Drummer. Joining me is Mr. David Frangioni. How you doing, my friend?
Doing well, Carl. Good to be here. Hello, everyone.
Great to see you. Yeah, appreciate. I know you're really busy. You've been doing so much great stuff, building out the brand, um, and especially in a difficult time with pandemic. A lot's been going on, and I know you're busy. But thanks for joining me.
Well, it's my pleasure. It's great to be here.
Great to have you here. So you're in Florida right now.
Yep.
That's where you're based.
Yep, South Florida. That's where the magazine's based now. We were in New Jersey for most of the 45 years, but we've relocated to South Florida, which is my home base.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry you're missing the snow here because we're gonna go sledding later today, David. Come on up.
Yeah, well, being from Boston, the first nearly 30 years of my life, I know the snow and the cold well, and it's nice not to deal with that. Although here we have hurricanes and other challenges weather-wise, but yeah, it's definitely a very, very different world down here, especially with everything else going on at the moment throughout the country. Weather-wise, we've been pretty fortunate.
Yeah. I love Florida. I love Miami. I haven't spent too much. Well, actually, in my business of the Parkinson's and neuro rehab stuff that I teach, it's been, I always thought I'd be a touring musician going all over the world. I toured the States some. Well, now I got my global travel doing the teaching, but a lot of it I did in Florida and Boca, Fort Lauderdale, um, uh, something Ray's
Delray Beach.
Delray Beach. Yeah, I was there 2 years ago, I think, and it's just so nice, man. It's great in February for me to be in Florida teaching, and I always pick January, February, March to go because it's cold here and warm there. So
Perfect timing to be here.
absolutely. Yeah, so you acquired the magazine Modern Drummer not long before the pandemic, right? And you were publisher before that, is that correct?
That's correct. I was publisher since May of 2019, and I acquired the magazine in February of 2020. And it ended up being, as it turns out, of course, we had no idea at the time, but it ended up being about 3 weeks before the pandemic really started to hit. And, it's really in an exponential way magnified, the challenges. The magazine has never had a challenge with the quality of its brand and the loyalty of its readers and viewers, but it did have a lot of challenges with its founder having passed away in 2003, Ron Spagnardi, a brilliant genius, visionary. And he had a successor named Bill Miller, who really would have been sitting here under the plan. But he ended up passing away just a few years after Ron, very unexpectedly. And so Modern Drummer internally was having a lot of challenges to kind of find its way. It didn't have another publisher that it named, and it was really, struggling to keep up with the times. And I was very fortunate to be asked to be publisher. It was a late move. Ideally I would have been publisher years before that. They kind of waited till the last minute, which was a challenge. And then of course now COVID comes along after I acquired the magazine, which was a real huge challenge to the elements of everything else we had to deal with. So it's been it's really been a ton of lessons, and we have a lot of growth ahead of us.
Yeah, it's interesting. Being in the the rehabilitation industry, cognitive memory, movement, and kind of the health industry, if you will. And then that's one part of my life. The other is interviewing musicians on a special playlist. But I hadn't really thought of it from the in a magazine or a print publication point of view. Like conceptually, I'm trying to think of. Well, I can't imagine how much you had to do, how much things had to change for you, and it changed so much for so many people. And I can, we've seen it. I've worked in it. We've all worked in it in our own ways. But like, what challenges were you facing, or are you facing? What were some of the first things, like the big ones?
Well, modern drummer, the whole digital side of things really needed quite a bit of evolution and improvement. And so that was, that encompasses so many different layers and elements to it. It's easy to say the digital world, and it's very succinctly stated in overview. But the fact is that there are dozens of elements to what the digital world consists of, and how we speak to our loyalists, and be a real source of value in all of these various spaces, whether it's web, whether it's EPUB, whether it's our live events virtually, our social media, etc. So there's quite a lot to it. So that was one of the biggest areas that Modern Drummer really needed to retool, and we've done that. We've really put tremendous resources and talent on the team and into the brand to develop all of these things. COVID or no COVID, I put my head down and just kept going. Winston Churchill always said, when you're going through hell, keep going. And so, that's really what we've done and are doing. And that's the digital world for sure has been something that Modern Drummer needed and is addressing.
Well, that's a constantly developing world too, the digital world, how people, reach, like you say, their loyalists, their fan base, their readers, and the inner workings. I can't even imagine what it's like for you. I just know on my end, with the little business I have and my little website, it's a heck of a job with that. I'm only dealing with a couple thousand people. You're dealing with a lot of people and content that's but I mean that's it's just huge. But you're building it out and doing so many things. You have the live events, the podcast is really cool too. I love that.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
what
Yeah,
else?
we have we launched a new podcast. We had Mike and Mike for many years, and that finished its final season. And then we launched the Modern Drummer podcast. And Narda Michael Walden he's a host every other week with us. He calls a segment called Upbeat. And we're doing a lot with the podcast. It's another arena, again, all within the digital space that we're talking about, another arena that we needed to, really evolve. And we're doing that. And we had our virtual festival, which was our 20th Modern Drummer Festival, but the first one that was virtual. And that was September 12th of last year. And that was, very well received. And we're working on the 2021 festival. And you're right. There's a lot to it. It's much more than most people who don't have businesses would ever realize could go on, especially for what's, it's a big brand, but it's a small company. And so, it's a lot, there's a lot to handle because, our viewers and readers they may be going from Rolling Stone to Billboard to People Magazine to Modern Drummer to watching the news, on a major network. And people nowadays don't really discern from, okay, well, now I'm watching a small company's production, or, now I'm watching a larger company's production. People just consume content, and it's either compelling and of high value or it isn't. So we've really got to compete on a massive stage that's really David and Goliath. And but we're doing it, and I have a lot of experience in small businesses. I've owned them, started them, sold them, run them for over 30 years in music and technology spaces. So this has its own set of challenges, but there are also a lot of things that I can apply from the past that I've learned that are helping Modern Drummer grow more efficiently.
That's great. I've always loved how the magazine is a resource that sort of, I'll probably go on a tangent, but I'll make it as short as possible. Um, a couple of people watching here. Giovanni Pagano's here. Gary Kennedy. Donna is trying to watch while she's working. See, this kind of parallels what I was going to say is even since the beginning, even before Modern Drummer, there's something special about drummers. And I was talking about it with, I don't know who, I don't know. I think it might have been Tom Breckline, but we were just talking about how the history of, Skip Haddon too, up at Berkeley. We were talking about how going way, way back thousands of years, drumming is something that has been used for communication, for celebrations, for a lot of different things. And so naturally, it seems like drummers come together as a brotherhood, right? And so Modern Drummer comes along, and this becomes a resource that drummers, you see the latest issue, man, it's got like Roy Haynes or Gadd or somebody, and passing it around before the digital world came to us. And it's a resource that brings us together even more. And when you took over, well, actually, no, let me go back. The sorry, I actually have COVID brain, so if I just get confused, then I apologize, people. And David, a little bit of forgetfulness here. Try to focus, but reaching what you were saying about reaching people and having to provide the value. I mean, on the digital end of things, that's huge. It has to look a certain way. It has to stand out. It has to command the attention of somebody, right? And
Yes.
and that in itself must be just a huge thing to have somebody. Do you have people working on that together, like a big, like a team of people who design layout and all that kind of stuff?
Yes. Yeah. We have a great team, and
Yeah,
and we have resources throughout that we draw on for our team. And absolutely, it's high production value,
yeah,
it's compelling content, it's timely content, and delivered in a manner that is really of the highest value for our loyalists. And we have a lot of them. We're very grateful. I want to personally say thank you to everyone out there who supports Modern Drummer, because it really is a family, and it really is a community
it
that
is.
that all of us are glued together by our common love and passion for drums and percussion and music. And Modern
Mhm.
Drummer is the place where all of that is celebrated and collected. And the drummers are the heroes in Modern Drummer. It's the one place that every month you can go, and throughout every day, because we're always updating content, and the drummer will be the celebrated hero. It's not the lead singer, it's not the guitarist, it's not the business people, it's the drummer. And
Yeah,
he's out from behind the kit, up on the riser, and he's front and center. And everything that we want to know about that drummer, from what sticks he uses and why, to his drum head choices, to his drum choices, to how many snare drums he goes between in the studio, and everything in between. It's all there in one place, and in a very trusted platform, being Modern Drummer. So it's a great honor to serve the drum community and to keep it glued together, and to really, be the steward, Modern Drummer, the brand, being the steward of drumming, as we keep going. Because nowadays it's so easy for everything to get fragmented.
yeah,
And how is there a community if there isn't one place where everybody is together? And that's what Modern Drummer is, one of the many things that Modern Drummer stands for and provides. And making the cover of Modern Drummer is still one of the greatest honors that any drummer can ever achieve. And we take that very seriously. And we put everything we have into into every issue and every bit of content and every initiative to really honor that great standard that modern drummer, is.
Yeah, I tell you, it's stood the test of time and just keeps growing and getting better and better too. And I would never do this. I don't just say stuff because you're my guest, for example. But there are a few drum publications. As far as I know, I think Modern Drummer was the first one, though,
It is.
and
Yeah, it was the first one and it's the oldest one.
the oldest one. Okay, and it is, in my opinion, the best one because of what you offer, the content, and the quality of the content, and there's no comparison. And I love it. And it's really cool because I have some downstairs print versions from the 80s and 90s, and well, I have a shelves of them, but it always looks really good too. Great covers, great content, and so right now, well, let's shift off the magazine for a minute. You're also a drummer. I mean, your whole life, if I remember right, I think your biography says you started playing at the age of 2, right?
Yes, I mean,
That's
I
cool.
started in the drums very early, and it was really a place of refuge for me and a passion that I've had my entire life. And I really thought as I continued to practice and take lessons and study with some amazing drummers and teachers such as Alan Dawson and Joe Morello, took
Oh
some
man.
lessons with Louis Bellson, Les DeMuro, Rod Morgenstein, just brilliant, and inspiring drummers. Uh, Along that whole path in my early years into my teens, I really thought I was going to be a full-time drummer, and that was gonna, that was what my future, was gonna consist of, is living the dream of, playing the drums for a living. But music, yes, drumming as a living, it ended up being that I took a turn into technology and found that I had as great or greater a passion for music technology as I did for drumming.
Hmm.
And that ended up being really the foundation of my life and career. But drumming's, so interwoven into all of these different experiences that I have and projects that I work on, and
Yeah,
from doing drum loop libraries, early on, and having great success with that, which is the fusion of being a drummer and being into technology and being into sampling and sounds,
right.
and all of that together. I was able to create, some really successful drum libraries. So,
That's
so
great.
just another example of how these passions all consistently intersect. And then modern drummers, another example of that as well, because when Isabel Spagnardi approached me, Ron's wife and widow and co-founder, of course, of the magazine, and the CEO until I took over, when she approached me to be publisher, she was really expressing like, well, our goal, almost our dream of like who would come in and be able to, to really help us, take us into the next evolution of this magazine, was going to be someone that was passionate about drumming and was a drummer, is a drummer, but also knew a lot about business and a lot about technology, since those were two areas that modern drummer, needed guidance in. And so, that's kind of not by any design or plan to ever be, at modern drummer. That's how it worked out, because that is in fact, those are some of the main ingredients to what my career's been.
Yeah, that's great. So you are in Florida now, but you grew up in the Boston area?
Yes, I grew up in Arlington, Massachusetts, which is a suburb of Boston.
Okay. So that's really cool. You were able to meet up with Alan Dawson, Louis Belson,
Yep.
for Joe Morello. I've I never met Alan or saw Alan. I've met Louis many times. Well, many, maybe 5 times or so, 4 or 5 times. Each time I did, such a gentleman. What a
Louis
class
was
act.
was amazing. I got to spend a good bit of time with him when he would come through Boston, and we became friends. And he gave me lessons, and we'd go out to
Wow.
eat and share stories. And yeah, Louis was a one of a kind, incredible inspiration. And, modern drummer, as part of my foundation, Frangioni Foundation, which anybody who's looking to be a part of a really worthwhile charity, please check out frangionifoundation.com. We have a drum Hall of Fame, the Modern Drummer Hall of Fame. And in that Hall of Fame, we have these iconic drum kits. And two of the drum kits that we have are Louis Bellson's actual kits. We have his gold Remo kit, and we have his Rogers kit that is gold plated, and it's the one that he played has the gold Dynasonic. It's Sammy Davis Jr. used it after Louis. So we have both sets of drum heads. They're both absolutely iconic Louis Bellson drum sets. And as drummers, and the mark that was made on drumming and music and double bass and everything else that Louis did, that says a lot. But when I see those kits, it means even so much more to me, because I have so many beautiful memories of this man that had no reason to want to be nice to me and help me and mentor me and spend time with me. I was literally like a 16-year-old kid, just going around, showing up at 2 p.m, waiting for him to get there so I could help him set up, just because I was such a huge fan and he was such an inspiration of mine. And that was kind of the beginning of how the relationship formed. As we got to know each other, we clicked. But that's just kindness that stays with you forever and has an impact on every area of your life. So when I look at those Louis Bellson kits, they're really special.
I remember pictures of the Rogers kit. And if I remember right, was he the first like pioneer like to use the double bass, two bass drums? I mean, was there anyone else before him? And if there was, I don't know about it, but
well, I think there was somebody before him, but he was the guy that it was Louis that brought it out to the masses, because he was, he was playing on such big stages, Duke Ellington and all of these iconic band leaders. So really that's where people really saw it. He was doing a lot of clinics, and he was the guy that really put double bass drumming on the map. And and many other things. He was such a genius.
Yeah, he put it out there. My dad was a big fan of Louis, and so of course I am too. But he took me to see Louis when I was about 10, so right around 1971 or so. He came to Syracuse here in New York, and it was kind of funny. Louis was driving this station wagon. I don't know if he rented it. I don't know what. And he showed up by himself with this double bass and the whole kit. We were the first ones there. We got there real early, and he was so friendly. I'll never forget it. We helped him set up. We spent a good 90 minutes with him alone. He was telling us stories about Duke and Pearl Bailey, his wife, and Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa. And, those stories are so interesting too. I love hearing stories. I love hearing about the history and about the people.
Yeah.
Gee, that's great. You got to meet him. And Joe Morello is another one who, what a great guy. I had the pleasure of seeing him a couple of times too, and just talking with him. He was fun. He was another pioneer, right?
Well, without question, Joe was a dream come true for me to study with. I never thought I would become close friends with him, but that just is the way that it played out as we got to know each other. But what I wanted to do was study with him, especially when Master Studies came out, published by Modern Drummer, right? So how strange the universe, that things cycle around all the time. And got Master Studies and had been listening to a lot of Joe's records, and I loved his approach to movement and how he took the technical aspect of the drums and perfected it to such an extent that he could literally play anything that he wanted to. Anything he heard in his head, he was able to play, he could play it on either hand or foot or any combination. It created these incredible rhythms and just amazing playing. So the first thing I did as soon as I got old enough to fly or drive by myself, which was around 15-ish years old.
Mm-hmm.
And in the back of Modern Drummer magazine, when Joe Morello had openings for students, he would put a little classified ad that he was accepting students. So, and I knew that because I had seen the ad back when I couldn't go to New Jersey where he taught and study with him. And then as I got a little older and I was able to go, I was waiting for the ad to come out, and I was looking at every issue. And then finally the ad came out. I called immediately, set up a 3-hour lesson because I was driving 6 hours to get there. So I didn't want to just take a quick lesson with them. I wanted to spend time. And that was the beginning of studying with him for a couple of years. And it was just absolutely life-changing. To this day, I'm still applying what he taught me. Knowing him as a person was a lifetime of inspiration and memories, and him sharing a lot of the stories and his approach. And Dom Famularo, who I know a lot of you guys know out there, especially in the drumming world.
I love that guy, man. I love him.
I love him. He's a great friend. He's the head of global education for Modern Drummer now.
Oh, cool.
And he's my current teacher. When I have time to take lessons, I go to Dom. And he really, truly is. I can say it firsthand because, I studied with Joe for a while, that he really is the continuation of what I was working on with Joe. He learned all of it backwards and forwards and studied with Joe, studied with Chapin and Shelly Mann, and was really, really, a master at how these movements are made and what the best approach is, so that playing is painless and effortless and limitless all at the same time. So Dom Famularo is like a modern day, evangelist for the Joe Morello and the Stone and the Gladstone approaches to drumming movement and drumming in general. And it's just, isn't it awesome being a drummer? I mean, isn't it the most amazing thing where you can have this much fun and this much challenge and this much growth while you're doing something you love? And the more you do it, the more you love it and the better you get at it. So it just fuels this whole beautiful circle of life that we're here for such a short time. Why not make the most of it?
I agree so much, man. And I'll tell you, I've gotten to know Dom just a little bit, and he is one of the most inspiring people, most authentic, genuine, sincere, friendly, inspiring people.
Yep.
I mean, he is the greatest example I know of just, well, he'll go outside of 1,000 people who are lined up to come in. He'll shake all the hands of every person. He remembers, maybe not all their names, so he remembers people's names years later. Oh yeah, I saw you 7 years ago with some. I mean, and he wants to share too. Like knowledge is not. He and I were talking about something last month. He was saying knowledge is not to be meant to be hoarded, but it's meant to be shared. We need to continue this and fuel, like you said, fuel each other.
Well, there's no question. Dom is he's someone that anybody serious about wanting to improve their drumming needs to check out what he's doing. He's got great books.
Yeah, he does.
The cycle of self-empowerment, just really, really fascinating books. And Modern Drummer has a very serious book division, our publications division. We just acquired the Carmine Apiece catalog of iconic drum books, Realistic Rock, and which is one of the books I grew up on, and Realistic Reggae, and just so many of these incredible books. And we're re-releasing them. We're releasing all of them in digital, and
that's great.
Yeah, it's a great time to be a drummer.
Yeah, it's interesting. I taught lessons back in the '80s, late '80s, for a couple of years. Back then, I didn't like doing it because I just wasn't good at it. Now I'd probably be pretty good, but I used a couple of Carmine's books with students, and they worked out real well. So thank you, Carmine, because without your book, I probably wouldn't have been able to teach. Not at that point, anyways.
Yeah. No,
I didn't know about.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's really cool. So you're working with Dom Famularo. I think Sergio Bellotti is also studying with him too, and I know a lot of people are.
Yeah.
But everyone speaks so highly of him. That's
You know,
I
and
might need to hire him too.
And well, Carl, you would be good to check that out. And you mentioned Skip Hayden earlier from Berkeley. You know, he's on. We're launching a new Modern Drummer Educational Advisory Board. It's going to be an advisory board specific for educators, and Skip and Sergio and some really amazing educators who are furthered the education and the growth of of drumming, of
Mhm.
learning drums and learning percussion and music worldwide.
Mhm.
It's just going to be, these are the guys that are going to be part of this board, so we can really
Wow.
forge ahead and be, up front and out front on the educational side of drumming, because it's so crucial, especially as public schools have less and less of the offerings than they've had in the past. When I was in public school, growing up, we had orchestra, we had jazz band, we had trap band, we had marching band, we had lessons, all as part of public school. They're nothing, you didn't pay for any of it extra. You just auditioned or participated, and it was so valuable and so
Mhm.
important. And a lot of that's gone away or going away. So we've really got to be out front on how we consistently grow the educational side of drumming, so that all the generations of drummers that are coming along, they have a guiding light on what their options are to learn the instrument, depending on what lane that they want to go in. Make sure they know what their options are, make sure those options are the best that they can possibly be, create as much variety as possible in the various lanes of drumming and percussion education. And that's really the goal of the Modern Drummer Educational Advisory Board. And we're just launching it now. We've you have your idea and you have your plan and you get great people together, and then it takes twice as long, even on a fast track, to
Yeah.
actually launch and implement, right? Because it's
Yeah.
small businesses, with just a lot of we have big plans but a small business, so always takes a little bit longer. But it's coming soon, it's in the works.
Well, I'm
And
glad.
it's going to be of great value and importance, especially to uh, whatever the next generation of drummers, that
You
are
know what?
coming, whoever they are going to really benefit year by year from this board.
That's exciting to hear about for a lot of different reasons. I know that even I was just as you're talking about public schools and this and that, or just schools in general. Um, I remember when my nephew was in high school. So this is maybe 10 years ago. He played trumpet and it cost maybe $600 at least a year back then to be in the band. And that's on top of the cost of the instrument. So this is 10, 11 years ago. I don't know what it costs now, but a lot of people don't have that extra money to put them into the band or program. And then if you want to do another band, it's more money and this and that. So it's really caused it's put a lot of roadblocks in the way, and it's made it so not as many can be in those situations. And with people like Skip and Sergio, just those two alone, man, it's like that would be
Unbelievable.
a fantastic way to, because there's such great resources uh, to really put something out there that's going to make a difference. I'm so glad to hear about this.
Well,
Skip and
Skip
I,
and Sergio are amazing. I mean,
yeah,
they are powerhouse educators and drummers and visionaries that
totally.
are just contributing so much. And when you meet guys like that and people like that, it's so inspiring. It takes your game and your vision to the next level, and
Mhm.
everybody just keeps growing it and growing it and growing it, because we all just have such energy around wanting to make this great and wanting to have it apply and help as many people as possible. And
Yeah.
that's really the jet fuel behind this, and the talent that we're assembling with people like Sergio and Skip. It's just it's very exciting.
It sure is, man. I've just gotten to know both of them this year. In fact, I met Skip through Sergio, and now for I think tomorrow will be our sixth time. But every Wednesday, pretty much every Wednesday, 11 till noon, we do an online thing, just Skip and Carl talking,
Love
and
it.
it's cool because both of them are such just massive resources in so many areas. Experience, concepts, this and that, and it's so cool to be able to have these conversations because it certainly never gets boring because they know so much. I've learned a lot from both of them already,
Yep.
and
So,
pretty soon we're going to have start having some guests on the program too, Skip and I. So we'll make an announcement on that too. But bravo to you, man, for that because that's a great start for a board. Those two guys, awesome.
yep. There's a whole host of people, and they are two of them for sure. And I agree. It's absolutely awesome, and we're very, very blessed to have people like that on the board, and it's really gonna be something. And we'll keep everybody updated. Moderndrummer.com. You get all the latest and greatest news and updates every day.
Yeah, yeah. That's great. That's great. So I'm just curious to know a little bit more about the Frangioni Foundation. So what's it more? If you can go into a little more. I'm sorry, I'm really tongue tied today. I'm not sure what it is. I sometimes I'm a little off. This COVID thing, man. I'm not blaming everything on COVID, but I think you said you had it and you're doing okay now, right?
I am, yeah. I had it in October. It knocked me out for a month.
Mm-hmm.
I think it went on. I think I got it for a whole month because I didn't take enough time to take care of myself.
Yeah.
The one thing I learned through that experience is that you really have to take a few days off,
Mm-hmm.
or it'll just won't go away.
Yeah.
And I didn't. So it went, it just kept knocking me down, knocking me down, knocking me down. Didn't knock me out, but it knocked me down quite a bit. And
Yeah.
so it was rough. It was a rough month. I definitely don't wish it on anybody. But Frangioni Foundation is my nonprofit that it basically offers programming and initiatives and opportunities for kids and people in need. We work with other foundations to be the drumming and music arm of their program. So Make a Wish, as an example. Let's say Make a Wish has a child that wants to meet, that's a huge Alex Van Halen fan. We have an Alex Van Halen stage play kit at the museum,
Oh.
part of the foundation. We could bring the child there. He could see Alex's kit, play the kit. If the timing worked out,
Oh
Alex could
wow.
join us there
Yeah.
and be a part of it. There's just one of many, many, many examples. We have curriculum that we've developed with Joe Bergamini and Dom Femularo.
Yeah.
Curriculum that I've developed. Of course, we have the Modern Drummer books like Master Studies in New Breed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's so many different action items that we put forth, all in the name of charity, all to inspire people and to change their life, brighten their day, especially when kids need it. I grew up at 2 years old. I was diagnosed with retinoblastoma, which is cancer of the eye. And, we didn't know if I was going to live or die. We didn't know if I was going to be blind in both eyes, which retinoblastoma normally causes. In my
Mm-hmm.
case, it was just my right eye. So I haven't seen out of my right eye virtually my entire life and never will see out of my right eye. And I know what it's like to have trauma and to grow up with a lot of setbacks on many levels, from being criticized by my classmates to being a loner to being in doctors' offices and hospitals, and
Mm-hmm.
all these various things are really disruptive to a child's life when something like that strikes. And so you bring them into Frangioni Foundation, and in those moments, that afternoon that they're there, they are transported into a place of beauty and peace and inspiration and love and
Wow.
music. And it's just like it'll last a lifetime of memories for them and with them.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. And it's really awesome. It's one of the most important things that I'm doing.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I'm getting goosebumps here because I'm kind of emotional sometimes. I'm just so happy that you're doing this. I mean, that's a big deal because, like you say, this can give a few hours can change somebody. They can reflect back on it. They can go back. They can feel how they were feeling during the time there. That's a big deal, man. Thank you
Forever.
for doing that.
You're welcome. It is
Yeah.
and it is a big deal. I agree with you. And I've had some support, but I mean, for the most part, it's been, I've been doing it. I've been the main benefactor, if you will. So, we'd like to sustain this and grow it, and we'd love to find other people that are like-minded that want to be a part of it. Everybody's being hit for so many different charities from everywhere they turn that it's hard to get support.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit, which for a year, for all of 2020, made the support virtually nil. So,
Yeah.
so it's another big challenge to keep going. But it's been going for a while now, for several years, and it's very worthwhile. So I agree with you, Carl.
Yeah.
It's a
That's
big deal to change people's lives and give them, we both remember, and I'm sure everyone watching and listening to this remembers those moments in your life that are just, your lifetime memories, the
mhm.
big moments. And they don't have to be big events to be big moments. You might have gone to a Stones concert at a stadium, and you don't necessarily remember every little thing about it because, it was important, but it wasn't like necessarily a lifetime memory. But a
Mhm.
small thing, like somebody who called you when you were in the hospital and you were feeling down,
Yeah.
and that was what lifted you up and kind of propelled you for another chapter, and at the right time that you needed it, that could be a lifetime memory. And so
Absolutely.
it's really in creating those that that the foundation excels, and that's what's so important to help people.
That's I'll tell you if maybe I'll reach out to you privately, but if I can help somehow to awareness for that, I will definitely jump on that, man. Seriously.
Thank you, we appreciate
And
it. We just
yeah,
want to keep going.
I would jump on that in a heartbeat. I want to. So we'll talk. Now where's the physical location of the foundation?
In South Florida.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
private foundation and it's a private drum museum. We only bring the programming there. We don't, it's not something where you can buy like a ticket and go into a museum like
Yeah.
you would think like a regular, museum in a city would be.
Sure.
So we keep it real private.
That's cool.
And for donors and um, for the people who are, recipients.
Yeah, that's
Um,
great.
and
Well,
it's
that adds a personal touch to it too. And that's another thing that can go a long ways for somebody is instead of having a crowd around who's touring while you're with this is your deal for the day or whatever or the afternoon. And so Gary Kennedy just made a comment. I'm just going to answer for you, Gary. He says he's on lunch and he's watching, and he believes Sergio Bellatti, which we talked about, and you do. And yeah, so Gary, the new what's the board? Education.
the
Uh,
Modern Drummer Educational Advisory Board.
okay, yeah. So Gary, Sergio is on that board. Skip Haddon as well,
Yep.
who I met through Sergio. So yeah, actually, a friend of mine's down there in Miami, Bobby Thomas Jr. Do you know him?
I
Do you
don't
know
think so.
he works with kids all the time. He was the percussionist in Weather Report when I saw them with Erskine and Jocko. He
Oh,
did a
amazing.
few years of them, and then he went on to do every band that Joe Zawinul had after Weather Report, and then a lot of other stuff. I've seen him in that situation a few times, and then with Sanborn here in David Sanborn. So he's in Miami.
Oh,
So
that's amazing. And I love the Jocko. Jocko's my favorite bass player. And that says a lot because I've got some really amazing favorite bass players,
sure.
from Patitucci to Billy Sheehan to
Oh
Ron
God,
Carter.
yeah,
But but Jocko is my favorite, and I saw him live a few times,
hmm
and not with Weather Report, but with him solo stuff.
hmm
And but I've listened and watched a lot of that Weather Report stuff with Zawinul and Erskine and what we'll call the Jocko years.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's a lifetime of education in watching and listening. And, as a bass player and even as a drummer to play with it, you could spend every minute just learning that stuff to grow. And
Absolutely.
it would never hit a point where, where you'd get it, like you'd eventually it'll become comfortable and you can start evolving from it. But it's a very high mountain.
It's really interesting, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but just a couple of comments here. So, just when I would think I'm starting to get it a little, like you say, feeling comfortable playing along with records or whatever, they've already evolved on. They're doing the next level. Oh man, now I got to do that, which is really inspiring. I always loved that about the evolution of these great players. But that was a great band, man. That's one of those events I'll never forget. Shea Theater, Buffalo, the fall of 1980. Erskine, Jocko, Wayne, Joe, and Bobby Thomas Jr. on percussion.
Oh, it
I'll
has to be
never forget
something
it.
you'll never. How could you? That's so iconic to see that. When I saw Jocko, I saw him a few times, and in at Jonathan Swift's, which was a club in Harvard Square in Cambridge.
Oh,
You'd
oh
walk
yeah.
downstairs, and the stage, and standing next to the stage left, you literally could touch the amplifier
Mhm.
of Jocko or Hiram Bullock or whoever was with him,
Oh,
and so I got to see him from 6 feet away a whole bunch of times, and it was amazing. And we
wow.
recently lost a very dear friend of mine and client, Chick Corea,
Oh,
and I bring that up not only because he's such an iconic figure in music and will always be, but because getting to work with him and know him and be there while the band is playing concerts or rehearsals, the electric band in my case, all the time I worked with them was the electric band years. um that's the same thing. It was like the music, like these absolute incredible musicians playing absolutely awesome music in a way that only that group could sound like and play like. And you're just
yeah.
one experience after the next is just more and more and more elevated and fresh.
Yeah.
Even if they're playing the same, I could hear them play the same song 20 days in a row, and every single time it was exciting. It was like the first time I was hearing it because of how they played it and their approach to the instrument is uh just so innovative. All of the guys in that band, of course, Dave Weckl, one of my favorite drummers,
Me too.
a great guy. But that's like that was a more modern day version of what we're describing with Jocko. And we're looking forward to the next generation of that as well, with Chick gone and
Mhm.
a lot of these icons leaving us. We need the next gen of that kind of inspiration. I remember seeing Tony Williams at Jonathan Swift's,
Oh
several
man,
times. Again, he
really?
set up the drums almost next to this little staging area that we could stand in if we got there early enough, which I always did. So I literally could touch his hi-hat, and
Mhm.
just truly experiencing the power and the touch and the innovation. And that's what a master brings to the instrument. It's like it's not just what you hear, but as a drummer, watching it and understanding how unique the sound is so unique because the playing is so unique.
Yeah,
And every
absolutely.
element of it, all the nuances they were just Tony, like he had developed such an individual style that was inimitable, really.
Yeah.
That you watch that and it just inspires you forever.
This subject comes up often, and that is that sometimes it's just the first name like Tony, Vinny, Dave,
Right,
Peter, Jack,
right,
uh,
right.
Elvin. I mean, if you're a drummer, especially, you know who we're talking about, and each of them, um, they brought their individual, very uniquely individual voice to and through the instrument. And I think that's an amazing quality, is to be able to find your voice, which of course for probably all of us comes from other people who influence us. And I was trying to copy Tony and Steve Gadd, and Erskine and Buddy Rich and Louis Bellson and, you know, all these people. And then I think because I'm pretty much a late bloomer in anything I do in life, maybe the last couple of years I was playing, I might have had a slight Carl voice, you know, a little bit came out of me, and that was actually me. But those cats, man, they're just so individual, like Train and Miles, and you know it's them. I love that. I love to be able to. I just love that people can do this, especially them.
Yeah.
What they
No, I
put out
agree.
there for us.
I
You know,
agree.
and those little places like that. I hadn't been to the place you mentioned. Two places I've been in Boston area, especially one of them is the Regatta Bar. And
That's where I would see Louis all the time, at the
really,
Charles Hotel. It
yeah,
was
Charles
across the
Hotel.
street from Jonathan Swift's.
Oh,
But yeah,
really? Okay.
yeah, that's a very iconic place, the Regatta Bar. Dave Weckl I saw there, and Louis, and what was the other place you saw?
Scullers.
Of course. Yeah. Well,
Scullers.
those are two of the most iconic jazz venues in Boston. You know, you have Scullers, you had Swifts, you had Regatta Bar, you had Riles, and in
Riles.
yeah,
Yeah.
very, very
I saw
famous
The way
upstairs.
Dave Weckl band, I saw at Riles. And actually, that was a little bigger, I think. I remember it's way in the back. Then the next night, I came back home. He was like an hour away from me. So I went 2 nights in a row I got to see.
I love it. I love it.
But I remember seeing McCoy Tyner at the Regatta Bar. I've been there so many times, seeing Stern with Weckl, Stern with Chambers, or Terry Lynn, or
Oh,
Kim, who was with Beyonce. Somebody, Kim, total badass drummer. She went with Beyonce. She was there with Stern. But anyways, it was Michael Brecker, Eric Harland. I don't know who was on bass, and McCoy Tyner. And literally, I was right by McCoy. I literally could reach out and I could touch the upper end of the keyboard. And of course, what was really cool about that, oh, you know Teresa DeMuzio, right? She's
very well.
watching with us right
And
now. Hey,
her
Teresa,
dad
how you doing?
and her dad
Oh
Lenny
yeah.
he was a great man, and he yeah, Beyond the Symbol
Yeah.
Bag there.
You saw it, man. Yeah,
They
that's
also
it.
the
She sent
Symbol
it to
Bag.
me recently.
Well, that's a
This is
great
like
book.
one of the best great stories, man. I
Oh,
love this.
without a doubt. And Lenny was an amazing man. He was very, very kind. And when I was 15 years old, he let me come to the Zildjian factory
Oh,
and pick out cymbals.
oh
And
wow.
Leon, the great cymbal selector there, was there. And and it was just amazing. 15 years old, I'm picking out cymbals with Lenny and Leon, who are, a week before we're picking out cymbals with Buddy, and picking out cymbals with
Oh,
Vinny, and
jeez.
picking out cymbals with, whoever, Mel Gaynor from Simple Minds at the time. And, just all
Yeah.
these drum heroes, and had no reason whatsoever to let me go to the Zildjian factory and create such a lifetime memory. But they did, because he was kind, and he
Mhm.
was, just a constant inspiration. And, hopefully I've made him proud through everything that's happened since then, and I've been able to accomplish. But when I look back, man, Lenny DeMuzio was a real force, and someone who I'm very
Absolutely.
grateful for. And I got to meet his daughter, of course, because, after I met Lenny, and Therese is great.
She is that just we talked maybe a month ago on the phone. It was just Teresa, we got to talk again. We have to do some talking here. She just made a comment here, David. Great interview, Carl. David is so talented on many levels in the music industry. Wishing you two the best. Thank you, and best to you too,
Thank you.
Therese.
Always
Yeah,
sending it back to you.
yeah. So let's see. Let's dial back here real quick. So, man, we might have to do part two somewhere down the road, because I think there's a lot of stuff we could be talking about, and it's real inspiring though too. It's so inspiring. You seems like you're taking what you do, modern drummer board, the education board, the friend, your foundation, all these things.
My other
Really,
businesses, I have several other businesses as well.
okay. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, there's an audio one. Is it? Is
There's
that?
Audio One, there's Frangioni Media, there's All Access IDA, there's Frangioni Consulting. Those are all full-blown running
Uh,
businesses with great teams.
That's great. That's great. And so that, and then you're reaching out there with various things, and you're well, you're helping people is what it is. I love when I talk with somebody who's helping people, so I appreciate what you do. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. That's what we're here for. You first you have to fill your own glass, or you're not going to be able to, somebody's thirsty, you're not going to have anything to hand them. So you've got to be able to, self-fulfillingly achieve success. And then from there, the next level, and an absolute requisite level, is to give back and to
Mhm.
take everything that you've accomplished and teach people from it, or inspire people with it. And that really takes it to the next level, and then that keeps growing from there. And
Yeah.
everything's just very cyclical. And it's I've been really blessed in my life. I started out with absolutely zero and built it all up, from scratch through a lot of hard work. But I really consider that, that there's been a lot of blessings. I don't take it for granted. And it's one thing to say thank you, but personally, I think it's much more important to actually be a source of gratitude, instead of just saying it. So by having these outlets, the foundation and these other charities, and I'm involved with Musicians on Call and Irie Foundation and some just really, really awesome charities and and actionable, institutions that go out there. And like Musicians on Call is a perfect example. For several years, I'm on the president's advisory council now, but for many years I went room to room at the hospital, brought a little Yamaha electronic drum pad, kind of like an
Mhm.
octopad, but it's little more featured. It's got its own speakers, and it's got an aux in, and things that I could go with a singer and my drum pad, and an iPod, and literally go from room to room. We could do 100 rooms in a
Wow.
few hours, one after the other, a couple minutes in each room, change a patient's life. Walk into a room where somebody's suffering, and when
Mhm.
you leave, they're smiling. And I
Yeah.
mean, it's really, really important, impactful stuff. And Musicians on Call is a great example of that. So being able to be a part of that, to contribute at a high level and see that organization grow and see more and more people positively affected by it, all of that's really, it's only possible because I've been able to achieve other successes that give me the opening and the bandwidth
Yeah.
to go and contribute to Musicians on Call. But I really, I can appreciate that because, when you come from nothing really, but you have love from your parents, and you have, amazing inspiration from them to not give up, to follow your dreams, to work hard, to, just keep going and really stay focused on what you want, and don't stop until you get it, and then take that to the next level. You really, it also creates a bundle of extreme gratitude and awareness as to how precious really, our lives are, and every moment is. It's so
Yeah.
easy to say, and you hear the
It
cliches and
is.
read the phrases, but the fact is, I'm talking about life. I'm talking about actually living, breathing, and being all the time. And then having, within that, pausing for just a moment long enough to have awareness and say, okay, let me get out of the fast lane for a second. I've accomplished this and this and this, and let me write a book, or let
Mhm.
me work with Musicians on Call, or, just contributions, because those are incredibly fulfilling. Even though you're getting just as much anyway.
Yeah.
It's all very cyclical, very fulfilling, and everybody wins. And that's how I like
The
to live my life.
For me, and a similar type of concept, not drums or music necessarily, but just in my business, the best, most gratifying thing is when somebody goes from feeling hopeless and defeated to, in a matter of a minute, sometimes optimistic and unstoppable, because they learned something that's going to help them move better, have a better quality of life.
Yep.
They didn't know what they didn't know, and now they know it, and it's like, okay. And that's the most gratifying thing, man.
How
It,
fulfilling is that? And you get
it's
that fulfillment because of what you
Yeah,
do with people every day.
yeah. There's nothing like it. something like it, because it has a ripple effect that goes out through the family members and friends and coworkers, whatever the situation is. But then others get inspired, and it's like this big thing that just keeps giving to itself,
Yep.
to each other. If you know what I mean, this energy. Man, this has been a lot of fun, David. I appreciate you joining me so much.
It's my pleasure, Carl. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. Thank you for allowing us to share a little bit of our lives. Hopefully, it helps and gives you some some insight and some inspiration. And I'll look forward to part two, man. It seems every podcast I'm on, it always ends up being two parts. I didn't think I talked that much, but apparently I talk way too much because I never get it in one part.
Well, that's because you don't talk too much. You just have a lot to say, and we only hit on some of it. So that's all good stuff. That's all good.
Well, thank you. Well, next
No,
time.
you don't talk too much, man. No, thanks. Keep up the great work. All right. You're rocking it out. You're changing lives. You're making a huge difference. And your work with Modern Drummer, man, I love how you're building that out. Keep that up. And I will be in touch. All
Thank
right.
you, everybody. Thank you, Carl. Oh, right
Yes.
on cue.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
ModernDrummer.com.
Mark,
Ringing the bell.
everybody, thanks for watching. Thank you again, David. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure.
All right. See you later, my friend.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.